It's driven by clear direction. It requires high motivation. And it requires a supportive environment. In this room, the county government sits. In this room, the county government has mechanisms that create the environment around which we can all work. In this room, USAID is offering support, an environment in which we can work together, and promises from even that frequently asked question, promises to work with us. That's a supportive environment. But that supportive environment ought now to give us momentum and motivation to then drive what we want to drive, and then to strive to achieve with some clarity a direction that we should take as Makueni in this process. But I'm saying this process is not without its barriers. It does have barriers. I have not been around you long enough, but I'm sure and I'm certain the way the sun rises from the east and rests in the west, you do have barriers, you do have issues, you do have constraints, you do have buts, you do have ifs, because you're human. And where you are, there must be those thinking. So one of the things that we have is cultural barrier. When our book was speaking earlier, I was saying, yeah, there you go. You see, NGOs have been known, have been characterized, have been called things. But NGOs have done many good things that are not as characterized and as not remembered. So let's not characterize, or let's not see the barriers and they come with prisms of, that affect our thinking because of the past. As a matter of fact, when somebody was talking, I was in Ukambani when some of the monumental failures were witnessed, like the ASAL project, where even Amkamba was the minister for ASAL. And there were Pajeros, by the way. When George Mutuandoto, the current minister the speaker of the Kitui County Assembly, was the minister for ASAL. I was a DO in Kitui. One of the reasons why I don't have any good things to say about him is that he was a minister who used to come with only to take impress from the district and spend it there, and the project was messed up in his own site. So he was given the ministry because he was from ASAL, but what is it known for? And there were Pajeros, they were there. What can you remember that project for? If you watched the impeachment motion for Charity Ngilu and you saw the lawyer who was being chased, I hope you saw it was me. Did you see the lawyers who were being chased from there? I was there. So the point I'm making is that I don't know why I went there. Okay. But Mutua and I have issues, so I went to take him on and told him, wewe unasumbua mama hapa anafanya kazi. Okay, hiyo ni siasa. You didn't hear anything. Did you hear? The point I'm making is that we have barriers, and for sure we do, and we have bad experiences. There was an EU project in Machakos, when Machakos and Makueni were still one. Very nice ideas. What remained of it? Show me. What remained of it? So if we look to the past, there are many failures, and they will make us fear to go to the future. So those barriers of the past should not block us from identifying the better things that can be done. We are the people who are going to break those barriers, and that's why we're here. Organizational barriers. Let me tell you, in this place, and you know it better than I do, you have organizations, you have names, and you even know what you call yourselves. We know. No, it's never done like this. Sisi huwa tunafanya hivi. You know it. Those are barriers. If we allow those barriers to affect our thinking, we will not grow this new thing that we want to grow. Let's remove those barriers and decide how is the future looking like. What do we want to determine the future as? It will not be affected by organizational barriers. Earlier on, and it is you that I was engaging in this. Just remind me the name again. Remind me the name. Ndolo. It's Ndolo that we were engaging in this conversation, and I want to say what I was saying. When I refer to complex governance, that's what I was explaining earlier. You start an institution, it grows, it has its own governance, it begins to do certain things, it remembers that it has its own governance, you change roles from the person who grew it now to some other name, complex governance. Your relationship between that organization and yourself and other entities that creates is very complex. So what I want to say is that we must recognize the complex nature of what we are creating. And that's why I was telling you that even when you look at life by itself and you look at a family by itself, there is no clear-cut way in which things are done. Things are interdependent, things are complex, things are integrated, and things ought to be. If you don't look at it in an integrated way, you'll miss it. I was explaining, you are a father today, you have every knowledge over your child, they grow, they become 18, they are still your child, but when they become 18, they are in a different space, they go, they have an education, they still relate to you as their parent, but that relationship changes. It's no longer one of looking up to and fearing, but rather one of saying, look, this is what I know, I'm sure you also appreciate. And then even you change your view of this fellow. If you treat your child as a child when they have gone to university, and whenever they speak, you're telling Nyamaza, there's something you're missing. There's something you're missing. You are missing the growth. You're missing the opportunity to learn from what he has learned. After all, in my place we say that ule mtoto anatembea anashinda mama yake na akili. Is there such a Kamba saying? Is there a Kamba saying that says like that? In other words, once you have given birth to a child and that child is exposed, chances are that they have some more knowledge than you. That's why I'm coming to. All I'm saying is we are into a complex governance mechanism that we should understand. If we don't understand it, it will be a barrier. If we understand it, it will be a facilitation. Because all we are saying, today initially we were for when we applied, we have been expanded because we need networks expansion. After that, there will be some other people, they'll come. Today we are talking about trustees, they are not here. Tomorrow they'll come, there'll be another body there. When they form, they'll have a different way in which they account. So there will always be a complex nature. A CEO will come for that trust that we want to create. They'll have staff meetings, complex nature. And they'll have programs, they'll have grants, they have people who will apply to them, they'll give them grants. Those people must account to them just like these people, the LDO must also account for the grants it's having. So it's complex and we need to accept that that is there. We either take a short-term or we take a long-term focus. But if we take a short-term focus, it will obstruct us. It will obfuscate the things that we can be able to see. And sometimes operational requirements just become our bottleneck. Those of you who work for governments know that governments exist sometimes for themselves, not for the people. Because they exist for procedures. And procedures are more important than the service they give. If you move from one government to take, whether it's a county government or national, go to UN. The UN is such a complex bureaucratic system that it just exists to service itself, not the people. And those things, operational barriers, also need to be taken into consideration. But if you thought that is more serious, there are also psychological barriers. And those psychological barriers refer to inertia and fear. In this room, I promise you, there are people who, even when we are saying that good things are going to come, they have a lot of fear. They are saying, itafanya kazi kweli? Unajua, vile naona. Fear and inertia has to be confronted if we are ever going to make progress. Yeah, we have to say, and that's why I tell you, maybe I'm an optimist. I look at what is possible, not what is impossible, because I look for possibilities, not impossibilities, because impossibilities are many. Even this morning, I could have refused to wake up at 4:30. I could have refused to wake up at to leave my house at 5:30, and I could have come here after 2. But I was here at 8:30. And before I came into this room, I went and attended the Court of Appeal with 3-judge bench. I finished my case and my clients were happy. They paid me by M-Pesa when I was sitting here. And I'm continuing to work. So I could have said, no, I'm not going to Makueni because I have a very important case. But I've done both and it's possible. It's possible. Lack of motivation. Of course, if we are not motivated enough, if we are not convinced enough, if we are not seeing things, then things will affect how we think. So psychologically we may be affected. But if we are going to overcome these fears, these barriers, then there's something we need. That is needed here, it's needed in the LDO, it's needed in the future. And the first thing that I'm working on is to say that we need autonomy. You need to be given room to make decisions. And that's why we'll come, we'll refer to you, we'll tell you as a steering committee, this is what we want you to do. We'll tell you, can you give us a name of this organization? And we'll be free to discuss and come up with a name. We will tell you now, let's agree on the process. How will we identify the trustees? We have to have that autonomy without interference, but with facilitation to get there. What else is needed? Mastery. Mastery. We have to know what it is we are dealing with. We have to know what it means to form and birth an organization. We have to know what a young organization requires. You know, when a baby is born, you know, a baby needs to be kept warm. You know, a baby needs to be cuddled. You know, a baby needs to be clothed. You know, a baby needs to be fed. So the breast milk, it should be there. If the breast milk is not there, you know you need to make an alternative. But thank God for women in Makueni, wanatoka mtoto na maziwa inatoka tu yenyewe. But the others who have a problem with milk, you need to know how to provide the milk. You know that a baby will need requirements. You know when your wife is pregnant that they will go to a maternity. You know that when they go there, there will be costs. You know. So all these things, you have to have a mastery of it. Siongojee ameenda hospitali sema haya, sasa nitafanya namna gani? Ametoka mtoto amezaliwa haya, nitafanya namna gani? You have to have a mastery of these things. Thank God there's no school that we go to be taught how to be mothers. Have you ever seen anybody teach even animals on how to mtoto anakuja? Somehow God has created a system which makes us survive. So you have to master your environment to be able to survive. We need mastery. Purpose. We have to be all agreed on the purpose. When we say we are creating an LDO, I started by creating the framework, the setting, the context in which this is being done, so that we know that we are all here for a purpose. You know, at the end of the day, at the end of this process, when all things are done, there's one outcome that USAID is looking for. An organization that has county-wide representation and membership existing to facilitate development needs in Makueni. That's all we are working for. An organization that has, and I can use Josephine's word, is community-owned, community-led, community-driven, working for local community issues in Makueni. Then you can add effectively working for. That's the dream we have. All these processes we are doing is to help us create that organization. That's our purpose. Then trust. We have to trust each other. If we don't trust each other, even in this room, if I don't trust you, I would not even leave my coat there. Thank God I left it there so you know I trust you. So we have to trust each other. But more importantly, in this room, we have to know that we are interdependent. Yes, the county government needs us. The civil society needs the county government. The county government, the civil society needs the people of Makueni. In fact, if the people of Makueni were not here, you would have no business. All of us would have no business being here. They may not be in this room, but they are the reason we are in this room. They are the reason that we have a representational role. They are the reason that we have the jobs we have. They are the reason that I came from Nairobi. If there were no people here, if this was Tsavo West or Tsavo East, we would all not be here. It's animals that will be represented here. So, we have to know that we are interdependent, and therefore we also need to have an ability, and above all, we need to have the integrity to deliver. Integrity is a rare commodity in Kenya, but we are pushing for it, and we are saying there has to be some people. Integrity or lack of integrity means that you tell people that they can work with a wheelbarrow and you ride around in a chopper. Why can't you also use a wheelbarrow? Anyway, that one is siasa. You have not heard me say it. But I'm talking about integrity. What is it? You say one thing and you do another. You preach this and you drink that. Unakuja hapa unasema we need a locally owned. And after tukitoka hapa unasema lakini mimi I must control it. Watu wakija mimi ndio nita control hiyo kitu. But wewe ukianza no, this thing has to be locally owned and community driven. Alafu nawaambia I am the community and the community is me. That's now what I'm talking about, lack of integrity. Ukisema wewe ni mchungaji wa kanisa, you can only be a mchungaji and a bishop because they are congregants. Because sio uende tu na udeclare tu mahali sasa wewe ni bishop alafu ndio uanze kutafuta congregants. The title has to come from the people. No bishop. Yeah. Do not declare yourself a bishop and then unaanza kutafuta watu. Pana? Kwanza kuwa na kanisa. Kanisa ikue. Alafu watu waseme nao tunataka tumechoka kuwa na pastor, tunataka reverend wa kuordain. Alafu waseme tumechoka kuwa na reverend, sasa tunataka uwe apostle wa kuordain. Alafu ukitoka hapo waseme ai tunataka kuwa kama watu wengine, you know the people of Israel waliambia we also want to be like others, so we need a king. Wakatoka kwa prophets, but at that time there used to be prophets. Sasa sisi pia tunatoka huko tunasema we also want to be like others. We want a bishop awe na kola. The point I'm making is this. We have to have integrity. And we have to mean what we say. Are we still friends? Yes. Are we still in the same process? Yes. Are we going to generate an NGO, an LDO that will speak to all these things? Yes. Basi nirudi Nairobi sasa kama mmekubali. Mimi nilikuwa nimeambiwa kwamba nyinyi mtakataa, you'll give me a hard time. Kumbe sio kweli. Aya, ati mnaanza kuniangalia hivi. That was a light touch. Nobody told me, but anyway, I think with that, if you agree, tunamaliza kazi tunaenda. We can now agree on how we shall select the trustees. Na vile tuta process hiyo maneno. Na kazi iendelee. Already. You are converted already. No, but here kuna watu nataka kuita altar call bwana. You want to tell me watu wote na unataka uombe? Mtawaita uombe, you know. And how they na atangie. Okay, wacha tuachie hapo. But the point is we are looking at how we can build out of this process, how we can build an organization that we can all relate to, because we are doing it with our mastery, because we are doing it with our with a purpose, we have a trust, we know we are interdependence, of course we have the ability and the integrity to so do. Having said that, of course we have talked about the concept of local development organization. I am only emphasizing it because when I went to school, I used to be told there's something such as useful repetition. That's why every morning unaambia watoto I, A, E, O, U. Wakirudi tena unaambia tena I, A, E, O, U. Useful repetition. Una repeat mpaka wanaimba tu wakienda manyumbani, wakilala, wakiamka. You see? So I'm in the process of useful repetition. Kugonga hii kitu mpaka ingie ndani ya system yenu. Mkiamka asubuhi mnasema LDO is an NGO. Pana mjui kama NGO ni government ama mjui ni nini. I'm hammering it. LDO is an organization outside government. It's an organization that has to do some of these things. So, and therefore, I want to explain what a non-governmental organization is, and then I'll also say what civil societies are. And then I want to say, the problem is that there are so many definitions of what NGOs are and what CSOs are, as many as there are people who are defining. But again, there's no single definition of what it is, but there are certain common themes that run through them. A non-governmental organization, also called a not-for-profit organization, also called a non-state actor. A non-state actor is an association, could be a society, could be a foundation, could be a charitable trust, could be a not-for-profit corporation, or what in law you say other juridical person. Other juridical person, in others, other legal person, other thing that has been clothed with a legal personality that is not regarded under the particular legal system as part of the governmental sector, and that is not operated for profit. It's not part of the governmental sector, and it's not operated for profit. If any profits are earned, because sometimes they are earned, they are not and cannot be distributed as such. Now, I want to tell you what I'm talking about. Do you know Nairobi Hospital? Is it private or non? Is it an NGO or is it a private organization? Nairobi Hospital.
It's personal. It's an organization of men who have invested.
It's private.
Yes.
Does it share profit?
Yes. It has directors, and there's a managerial system of generating profit.
And they're expensive. So do they make money and do they distribute profits? They make money, but they don't distribute profits. So how is their... But now I'm coming. So it's not meant for distribution. Why? And you have said it's a private company and it has directors.
Because it is the dividends the proceeds should go to the investors' pockets.
The profits should go to investors' pockets. So does it go or does it not go?
It goes.
Any other opinion? Nairobi Hospital is not a private company. Is not owned by any individual, is owned by an association. It's owned by an association. They are expensive, but the money that they generate does not go into anybody's pocket. It's always plowed back for development, for expansion of facilities. Does it mean that those who work in are not paid, like the staff and whatnot? They are paid, very well paid. But are there profits that are shared? No. There are no profits shared. So there's an association that owns, and even you, if you are allowed, can be a member of that association. There are benefits that you have as a member of the association, because then you can be a member, you can be a board member. And that's why watu ambao wako Nairobi also wanakatana usiku na mchana, because the money is not in the profits, it is in the contracts, it is in the procurement, it's in the construction, and they are into expansion big time. So huyo boardroom wars mnaona SEO anakuja anafutwa hiyo corruption, integrity, but they are not a private company. They do not distribute whatever. Aga Khan Health Services, is it a private company? Aga Khan Hospital, is it private?
No.
How is it owned?
By Aga Khan Foundation.
Is individual owned?
Like Aga Khan universities, Aga Khan.
I'm talking about Aga Khan Hospital because you need to know the creation. You see, I'm going somewhere because eventually we will get there because of legal status and so on. So I've told you that Nairobi Hospital is an association. It's run by an association. The mechanism of it is under Societies Act. If the registrar of societies were to strike Nairobi Hospital, it would be enough for action against the directors and so on. But the Aga Khan hospitals are run by the Aga Khan Health Services. Now the Aga Khan Health Services is a not-for-profit. It does not distribute profits. The issue is, how is the Aga Khan Health Services registered? Okay? Now you tell me, but the Aga Khan Health Services, the health hospital is owned by the Aga Khan. It's not owned by the Aga Khan in the sense that the Aga Khan is both an institution, the head of Ismaili faith, and also a private person. But Nation Media Group is owned by the Aga Khan, the person. It is floated on stock exchange. People can buy shares. He is the majority shareholder. He runs it as a business. Jubilee Insurance is a private company. Diamond Trust is a private company owned as such and is for profit. But not the Aga Khan Education Services, because the Aga Khan Education Services, the Aga Khan Health Services, the Aga Khan Trust for Culture are all registered as charitable trusts through which the Aga Khan pumps part of his income, part of his returns from his businesses for health, education, and culture. Boss, did you have that? Or I'm also teaching you in the process? Yeah, so then the Aga Khan Foundation becomes the trust around which most of the land and other assets that drive the development agenda of the Aga Khan is owned. So the Aga Khan University is owned by the Aga Khan Foundation Trust. I had the privilege of submitting its papers for registration and the Commission for University Education, who are insisting that the land must belong to the university, otherwise they will not accredit it. So what I did was to show the Commission for University Education that actually Aga Khan Foundation is the sponsor of the university, which is true, because if you look at it, because they're the ones who own the land. Because land cannot be owned within the Aga Khan network by any of those entities except the Aga Khan Foundation, which is registered as a trust. I'm going somewhere? I'm going somewhere?
Can we ask you a question?
I'm going somewhere? Yes, please.
Back to, well, more about Aga Khan, we have some hints that how it's more of a charitable than profit making.
Mpatie mic so that aweze kusikika vizuri. Unajua huyu ni mchungaji, anapenda kusikia sauti yake. Have you seen a pastor who doesn't like a microphone? Hakuna? Aya.
Okay. All right. Now, all along, somebody told me that Nairobi Hospital is owned by a clique of rich people. Anyway, that could be a bad language, but then that's how we used it. But, and then, as compared to other charitable organizations, we see other charitable organizations like the Aga Khan Foundation, which is dispersing funds for other charitable organizations and helping people. But I do not remember anywhere a Nairobi hospital has ever built another hospital in Machakos or Makueni, or even been used or engaged in dishing out some helps to charitable organizations, or even with one that can outreach the people that are poor, hungry, you know. So when you say it is non-profit making, where does that, anyway, how?
I said, if any profits are earned, so they earn profit, they are not and cannot be distributed as such.
Okay.
If any profit, because they are, like even the Aga Khan makes a surplus, it's called a surplus. Is there an accountant here? The language in accounts is entities like this have income expense accounts. Nothing like profit is what you earn is expensed. Anything that is over and above is carried forward as a surplus.
Okay.
It's not available for distribution by dividends or interest. It's not available. You cannot treat it audit-wise, and in terms of compliance, it can only be plowed back. Now, the other question you ask is critical. They are not a charitable trust, because the members of Nairobi Hostel, the association that owns Nairobi Hostel, which is comprised of members, created this hostel in order for it to give them high-class medical services. So if you are a member, the way you are treated when you are sick is different from where a mortal, whether a bishop or not, who submits himself to the hospital is treated. Because this is for them, but they have also opened it for others, who then they charge very handsomely, and that's how they manage to pay up for the others who are members when they go there. So the benefit you have is to get high-class medical services, but not what we call manyonge. You don't get manyonge. So that is Nairobi Hospital. Then I've given you the concept of the Aga Khan Hospital. And I've told you that the way the mechanism has been done is to create asset and land ownership under the foundation, and therefore responsibility and everything else for asset is held by the foundation, and the chair of the foundation is the Aga Khan himself. That is different from MP Shah Hospital. But even that is not very different, because the MP Shah Hospital is owned by the Shah community for their people, but also for non-Shah community members, for which you pay, and you pay handsomely. If you are a member of the Ismaili community and you go to Aga Khan Hospital, there is a privilege you enjoy when you go there, because this hospital is also meant to take care of the Ismaili people. The Shah are meant to be taken care of by MP Shah. The others are meant to be taken care of by Pandya Hospital. Others are meant to be taken care of by Sikh Union Hospital. Others are meant to be taken care of by the Orthodox Church on Ngong Road. Nanyinyi? Nanyinyi? Kijabe, AIC Kijabe. By the AIC Kijabe, very, very, very focused, and one that was imitating what others were doing, just like the Catholics with their mission hospitals. They came with an idea of providing hospital education for their faithfuls in the first instance. If you are a Catholic, you will have a higher preference to go to Strathmore, Kianda, than if you are not. Alafu mnasema ni discrimination. Simujenge yenu. So, you get where I'm coming from? What I'm saying is that there has to be a purpose behind what we are doing. While we create this LDO in Makueni, we have to be very clear what it is. And we are saying it is community-owned, community-led, members drawn from community organizations, the NGO sector in Makueni. Ambaitu, kindu kitu a purpose ni kindu cha vata. Without it, the Bible says the people perish. It's not me saying, Bishop. So, we have to be on this. and I can hammer this and hammer this until the cows come home. Twende mbele. Now, of course, when you talk about non-governmental organizations, that is a grouping that I've described. And when you talk about the civil society, okay, no, just kidogo. When I was explaining the non-governmental organizations and I was referring to it in that context, I want this point here, this one. Yeah. This normally does not include trade unions. When you're looking at non-governmental organizations per se, it does not include trade unions. It does not include political parties. It does not include profit distributing cooperatives. So where am I going to by telling you that the kind of vehicle we are creating is not a vehicle that is going to mobilize cooperatives, is not a vehicle that's going to mobilize trade unions, it's not a vehicle that's going to mobilize churches, or because all these things are regulated by their own law and they have different purposes. Unless the cooperative or unless the church or unless the trade union has registered something on the side that's non-governmental, not for profit, everything that a cooperative owns is for its members, and every money that they make is available for distribution. So when you're looking at non-governmental sector where we are focusing on, it's different. It does not collect everybody, and it does not then support everybody. When you send out calls for proposals, it will have to be calls for proposals by the LDO for certain specified groups working not for profit, not then they take the money and they go and distribute among themselves or make money. You're going to look at people who are working for common public purposes. If a church has an organization such as ADRA or has an organization that is doing community development, that's different. That's not a church, so to speak. So when you look at civil society, it's the sphere of institutions, organizations, and individuals located among the family, the state, and the market, in which people associate voluntarily to advance common interests. Now, when you look at civil society generally, it includes, but is not limited to, legal entities such as NGOs, associations, societies, companies limited by guarantee, foundations, trusts, and so on. However, when you're looking at civil society, you also see, because trade unions are organized for a purpose, political parties are organized for a purpose, cooperatives are organized for a purpose, churches are organized for a purpose. So when you're looking at civil society, it carries all those. But when you're looking at non-governmental or not-for-profit sector, it isolates these others, because these others are organized for a very clear purpose. You see, if you give a church a support, it can only then give its members benefits. It cannot give non-members, because its purpose is for its members. So when you're looking at beyond for community, you're looking at everybody, believers and non-believers, so you need to support them as such. But if you're supporting a church, it's a very different arrangement. That's what I wanted us to know. So what we are saying that all voluntary associations are CSOs, while NGOs specifically refers to the definition that we gave it up there. And there are many ways in which we can deal with this. All I'm saying is this: where are we going? We will have to delineate, we will have to describe, we will have to distinguish, we will have to delink the LDO from any other definition other than the one that fits within what you call the third sector. There's the first sector, which is the state, the second sector, which is the private sector, and the third sector, which is all voluntary organizations and that one. Where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? That we are creating an organization that is separate, not integral, not inside. It's outside the state. It's outside the government. It works with voluntary members away from the state. It's not replacing the state. It's not competing the state. It's complementing the state. I want to relax and check your temperature. Wapi ile temperature gani?
in this complementation, where and how does the Makueni government integrate with us in that process of integration? And even once we roll it out, what role does it play? Two, now, if this is a trust, will the LDO be generating some funds for the organization, or it shall be borrowing money to assist in grants to the developing civil societies, FBOs, and so on?
Let me try and Ebu nirudishe kwa co-creation. Aya. I want to get back here and say that everyone in this room, including the county government, is a potential consumer of the LDO services or LDO's activities. We said that the LDO will work with the county government and work on governance and work on service delivery. Indeed, the LDO could be a service delivery vehicle in which the government puts resources. Where USAID is putting resources, the resources that USAID is putting in this LDO are not private resources, they are public resources, for heaven's sake. So the county government today can actually put money in the LDO and say, go and deliver for us 1, 2, 3. Will that make the LDO a government organization? No. Will it make it a part of the government? No. Will it stop the LDO from holding the county government to account? It should not. I'm saying it should not, but it can. It depends. It can. If I flood you with money, I will also shut your mouth. So it is a delicate balance to receive money from a government and do what it wants you to do or not do what it wants you to do. I want you to know this, and you should know. World over, governments put money to NGOs. Governments put money to NGOs. For those of you who are in the development sector or in the ecumenical movement sector, the biggest organizations that support our development, including NCCK, are government-funded organizations in Germany, such as EZE, Bread for the World. Those are NGOs funded by government. Any of even those so-called ecumenical groups, as long as I have another client of mine, is called EDO. EDO is Emergency Relief Development Organization. It's an organization that is established by the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada as a relief agency. It gives money in Kenya, money that CEDA Canada has put to it. So CEDA Canada puts money through EDO. EDO is a relief organization, but it's a Christian-based relief organization. ADRA and others take money from government and do development with it. So LDO in Makueni can take money from the government of Makueni or national government and do development within, as long as the objectives of that process are consistent with the objectives of the county government. So it's possible that this LDO will be funded by the county government, or the county government will put in some resources for certain specific purposes, including public participation, for example, or other mechanisms. And by the way, let me tell you for free. Idhiwa wina budget na wenda budget yako kuna wiyawa community. Instead of going through a procurement process that is endless in government, you earmark that money. Using a law, you transfer the money to an NGO. It will do the job you want to do without being bogged down by the nonsense in government called procurement. No. Okay. There's a lot of nonsense, by the way. Procurement in government is a lot of nonsense. That's why I keep telling you, it's just preoccupation with itself. It's not meant for the good of the people. That's why at the end of a procurement process, the loser is the community. The loser is, because Mara, EACC is investigating the thing, inafungia voucher. If you are a private person, umechukua tender, you don't get paid. Bure kabisa. Oh, pole. So wacha niachie hapo. Kuna watu wa serikali hapo. The point I'm making is that there are other actually easier ways of doing development. And one of it is we are creating a vehicle in Makueni in which the county will find it easier. But for you to do that, it means you can also not be sitting inside the LDO and you give them money and then you say that this is, there has to be an arm's length. There's an arm's length. There has to be an arm's length where you hold them to account to you. But in your books, you expense that as a grant to them. They do what you think they should do or what you have agreed with them to do. And then you hold them to account. If they don't, unawachapa kiboko. So there's a place here where we are creating a mechanism that can work for the good of all, including the county. Siasa niache nirudi Nairobi sasa.
So it's a point of concern. So can the LDO be funded direct without the involvement of the government? Funded directly, the involvement of the county government. Okay. Yeah, I understand. So I'm looking at a situation whereby, like in our case, once you're funded, you have to identify maybe the groups. Let me say groups or like in our case. Let me talk about PWDs, where you need a project to be funded. So do you have to go directly to the county government, or do you approach the NGO? We have a project which needs to be funded by the, not NGO, but a project by NGO, the PWD. It's a network. Yeah. As a community-based organization. No, we normally depend on maybe our own creative projects and also some resources from the government. Through the department. It's okay.
In 2013, 2014, somewhere there, Makueni County government gave money to those things you are calling civil society and the rest. Set up organization. One was Makopap. Makopap is Makueni something pastors. Then K-Unity, Mapaka God, another one, I don't know, several. But the problem was one. At the end of the day, most of them did not account. So there was an issue. But those who accounted, there was no issue. That's, I agree with you, government can channel money to organizations, but monitoring should be there and the reporting.
Absolutely. And you need to anchor it to the legal framework. Because I've done the empowerment regulations for Kitui County, and money will be put there, and it does empowerment things. You just need to put it in law. But that's another discussion. Yes, so we are saying that it's possible for us to see the bigger picture and for us to see a vehicle that can be funded using different mechanisms. And that's what we're working on. Any more comments? Josephine, are you still with me, or this lunch that you ate has since divorced us? You're still with me? Say something. You know, I must hear your voice.
As Eunice said, that we have been so much pregnant enough, and we want now to go to this structure thing, and this, how are we going to criteria so that we can now brainstorm. But that presentation was a wow. At least I've learned something about co-creation. I just used to hear co-creation, and just had a wild imagination. But today I'll go home with a concrete definition of co-creation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad that I have made you learn. You know, I also teach, so I am a teacher. And the most exciting thing for a teacher is to help somebody to develop or to have new knowledge. I'm happy. Yes, Ngina?
Yeah, mine is a request. I've seen that today was preparation for tomorrow, and you've shared good content. Are you able to send us the notes so that we can synthesize at night? When we come tomorrow, we can have revised, like...
I don't know what we can be able to send tonight. What can we send today? Yes. No. Has Njeru shared something, or I'll have to go to my... Okay, fine. Okay, what we'll do is that we will try... By the way, there's nowhere we are going. I am with you. And even if I go, like Jesus told his 12 disciples, I will leave you a helper. Bishop. No, we are here. By the way, we are here to make sure that we all move together. We all have common understanding, because that's what will help us. So anything you want, we'll see. Whether it's not, we'll make everything available for you so that you can internalize them. So yes, Bishop.
1 point.
Yes.
I'm allowed enough to don't watch my...
It's just that they want the machine.
Yes. Now, my friend here has mentioned of some that was dispersed to organizations including Makueni. Well, I understand the money was guzzled by giving yours, and the thing went underplanted. It enjoyed a good cover-up. I mean, they were not held accountable. Now, the LDO we are, practicing, and of course now we are almost through. I am sure some funds will be disbursed to the applicants for particular projects that will be undertaken within respective places by organizations, of course, which are registered like Makueni. And some of the funds will be very colossal. Once it is embezzled by the leadership of that organization, how does the LDO recover its money, or these people get account for these laws or for these moribund projects that are sold and things? Because there are two scenarios here. Money will be easily obtained through justification by papers. Now, once the money lands there, and of course, we are in Africa where we practice some organizations and even...
No, we are not in Africa, we are in Makueni.
Yeah.
People of Makueni are different. Yeah, okay.
It's an open secret that organizations are formed even by churches, by pastors, by believers, by laws and others, just for the purpose of attracting funding for a particular project that will never see the light of the day. Now, is there a mechanism, because we are now well versed with this, of monitoring and evaluating the end results of the fund that will disburse to this effect? Now, let me finish up. In other words, I'm talking about during the managerial hierarchy. Will there be a level which can supervise the implementation of these projects, and more so capacity building to make sure that these people are well versed to do what for the purpose of which money has been given?
I think the first thing we'll give them is the frequently asked questions. That, I think, is the homework we want to give you. Because the thing you have said there is very well explained in that article. There will be capacity building for this LDO, and I don't know whether you have ever received money from the Americans. They are a pain. They are a pain. Even these guys called Yetu are receiving the money in drips. You're only given enough. You account for it before you get the other one. It is a pain. So the point is that they make sure that money goes for the intended purposes. That training... Definitely, from where I sit, and maybe...
From legal perspective, because
no, kukulwa inaweza kulwa, sisemi itakulwa, inaweza kulwa, but people must account for NGO money. For NGO money, mimi sijasikia ule mtu aliiba pesa ya NGO akapotea. Ni kali. But anyway, let's listen to...
Thank you. I think in the earlier days when we were discussing about how the LDO will function and thinking of transformation or way of doing things, I remember agreeing that currently we have had organizations that are given money because they are briefcase organizations, and where they say they are going to implement it, the people in that village, they are not even aware. The people in that sublocation, they are not even aware that there is somebody who is coming to do, or who has documented or expressed interest saying that this is my intervention area. And knowing that that is one of the threats that we have for the LDO to ensure that it delivers what it says, I remember we had proposed that this trust, since it is going to be led by people from Makueni, and they receive money, or from any organization receives money, or they are provided with funds, will be the role of this LDO to ensure they link the would-be beneficiaries with this organization that is going to implement, so that they are held accountable at the place where they are going to be, implementing the activity. And that way we'll be able to mitigate or reduce the possibility of not executing the projects as it is intended. Because they will not be able to go and fill any forms anywhere, say that, oh, we did this and this and this and this. There will be a mechanism to find, to verify that that has happened. And I think earlier on, Wakili, you had asked about what is this people's government? And you've heard of people, county development committees, and the role that they might be able to play, since there are structures right from the bottom of the county to the county level, those structures exist, and they could be able to be the ones that will be able to know, in this area, in this sublocation, Mudima is implementing this. And there are people there who are beneficiaries, who are, informed that these and these and these will be happening, and probably will be the verifying platform or board to say that it has happened. And then whichever organization, Mudima or any other, can be held accountable.
Thank you. And then plus, I don't know how I can keep on repeating this. The LDO is being created with our input. The systems that the LDO will use will be created partly by us, and therefore LDO and ourselves will ensure that these systems are safeguarding the interests that we are building. So we are not done yet. The work doesn't stop because we have created the LDO. The work continues until we are sure that the LDO is doing the right things. So we are still in this business, and we must remain in this business. How pastors steal money should be something we know, to the extent that we tell the LDO, this is how they steal and this is how you should not allow them to. So because we have known certain things, we will put those things in. And I'm not saying pastors steal. That was just one. They ate, yeah, they just ate. Walikula tu hakuiba. Walibeba tu na tumbo. Yeah. So anyway, the point is, we have a job to do, and we'll continue to do it. I think we need, Martha needs to make a presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, Martha needs to make a presentation. I can stop there. Then tell Martha to be ready so that I can pick it up again tomorrow. Yeah, because it's important that others, you listen to other voices, because mimi mtachoka na mimi. Any other comment? Hey, brilliant. I need a brilliant comment. You know what I've been hearing is not brilliant. Let me hear a brilliant comment. She's called brilliant.
I have a comment.
Yeah, Irene. Is it a brilliant one? Because we have a lady here called brilliant. Okay.
No.
Yes.
Maybe it's a comment that is going to take away some of the operational concerns that you have mentioned. I'm hearing this afternoon. So one of the areas of capacity development is strategic planning that will define the implementation approach for the LDO. And that is something that we've lined up, although you saw the roadmap, we did not necessarily say this, tick this, tick that. So one of the milestones we have immediately after registration is strategic planning to define the implementation approach. Then the second point that I wanted to say is that in terms of policies and procedures, the policies and procedures that are being prioritized include the board charter. And the board charter will define a lot about how the board is going to make decisions. And of course, also continue talking about areas of accountability, and including how board is oriented and capacity is built, and how they can also review their own performance, so that or board evaluation, so that they can actually continuously be accountable to the people. The other one is things like grants management policy, grants making policies, so that the aspect of accountability is there and entrenched within the policies, including financial management policies, HR, procurement policy, salary structures, and those kind of things. So the point I want to leave here is in terms of how is this organization going to operate. So as Yetu, in terms of our agreement with USAID, we are going to work with this organization for the rest of the year and next year as well. And definitely when it comes to the county government, they've expressed the need to think longer term, because even for the period of time that we are working with the organization, it will not be sufficiently strong to be left behind. And so those are the things that we will continue talking and seeing how best we can support the LDO once it's registered. So some of your concerns are well taken care of, and we are going to make sure that even as we continue building the capacity of the organization, things like monitoring and evaluation in terms of their structures and capacity is also entrenched and built. So I'll stop there and say, let's focus on the governance question. Let's talk about the board of the trust deed and the things that we need to put there for registration. And maybe perhaps this afternoon, the biggest discussion was the issue of board of trustee. How are we going to identify them, and how are we going to make sure that we get them? Because unless we get board of trustees for this trust that we're going to develop, we'll not be able to complete the step of registration. And back to you, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. And what I want to do is I want to do a break from my monotony, because I'm looking at them, they're looking at me and say, so I want to stop so that Martha can come in, then we'll pick up some of these things. We'll revisit governance issues again tomorrow, and then we'll go through the trust deed. Tomorrow we'll spend it more on the trust deed and then agree on the next steps in how to identify the trustees. But I wanted a brilliant comment from Brilliant. Yes, Brilliant. You are not off the hook.
Okay, I'm not really sure what you want to hear, but all I can say is I'm really sipping in a lot of things I'm learning. Having joined for the first time, I'm really learning, and yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more. And even as we look forward to tomorrow, yeah, I'm really anticipating to see how it goes, and yeah.
Perhaps do not hesitate to bring in your ideas, even if you don't think they are worthy, because you never know. You may just be having the idea that we're looking for. So feel free and talk through. Yes, Ndolo. Yes. No, you can still look brilliant, even if you're not. Yeah.
Makueni is very unique.
Yes.
Even I heard it from the word go.
Yes.
And I belong to Makueni, I know it.
Yeah.
You know, up to this stage, whereby we are doing introduction,
Yes.
people are ahead of introduction, they are seeing investment,
Yes.
which means when we get there, they will be far away, even than investment, to implementation. When they are in implementation, we want to see results, which means we are going good. We are doing good. Don't worry about these questions. They are nice, in a way that what wanaona mbali sana. LD is formed now. Let me tell you, it's formed. And the people are seeing far, because once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah.
And ndio sababu unasikia watu itafanyiwa nini? Si kuna sheria. These are legal, it will go through legal system. Kuna bylaws, hata huko nimeona bylaws, memorandum of association, memorandum of understanding. It will take care of that, and we'll also say more about it. Our inputs will guide us whether we'll base or what will be taken to LDO or to go there. So this is our document.
It's true, it's our document, it's our process, and we'll keep enriching it. And we are co-creators, so we are not going anywhere. What Irene has outlined, we'll be part of it. We'll attend some of the seminars, even as we help the Board of Trustees and the Trust to settle down. No doubt about it, and we'll come to it. One of the things that lends itself very well is the fact that in terms of ability to sue and be sued, An incorporated trust, which we are working towards, is a very strong mechanism to so do. So huwezi kuchukua pesa ya trust na ukatoroka nayo. The law is very tough on embezzlement of monies that are held by a trust, and that is something that we shall help to ensure holds forth. Okay, it's now 3:35 or 3:40 going, and I really want to bring, oh no, it's not my responsibility, but I want to bring my presentation to the end so that Fred can bring and introduce some very strong and powerful lady, because it's also important that she has her day. So please, Fred, do the needful. By the way, you can clap for me. I don't mind. Yeah. You can clap for me.
Thank you, Martin. I think in the interest of time, I won't really add much to that. I just thank you, and thank you all for the participation. Again, we are emphasizing that all this is to form the base. All this is to build that common understanding and the consensus building. So it may seem like it's taking a bit of time, but it's very important, because when the true discussions come, we will need to have that consensus amongst us. So with that, I'll just invite your good friend, I think you know her better than me, Martha, karibu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred and Martin. I think you've taken your time to extensively refresh us on the co-creation process. And the team here today has been very candid, which I think it's very important to thrash out those issues so that we know where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going. So I think that's very important. I've also just realized that Martin has beaten me in my Kikamba game. I feel now I didn't need to up my ears. I've just learned that. So I request us for a moment, 1 minute, we just stand up and stretch and take in some oxygen. You know, I know we've received heavy things today. So to stretch kidogo, to just stretch, stretch the farthest you can. Stretch the farthest you can. On your right, on your left. Just stretch, try to take in some oxygen. You know, development experts lazima tukue fit even physically to serve people. We can breathe in, Let oxygen get into your lungs. Breathe in again, a deep one. Let it out. One final time, we can take it up. Deep, let it get in deep into your lungs. It's good for your brain. Awesome. Thank you, great. I'll not take so much time, but since the last time we were here as this team back in November, where we received the good news of the LDO message, and thereafter, the technical committee took the good news to the cluster level and then to the ward level. And yesterday we had time to just pause and reflect about that process. And the process I'm talking about is the social mobilization process. And Yetu did take time after that. That was towards the end of December and early this year to consolidate a report that we shared with the technical team and the county team that were very supportive in the process of social mobilization. Yesterday we had an opportunity to just go through the report, to analyze it. But for the benefit of those who joined us today, I think it will be good for us to just run through the report. We may not go through the whole report, but there are key areas that will be very important for us to be on the same page, reading from the same script, and especially as we steer this process to the next level, that is the registration process. So I will share with those who have joined us today so that they can have time to go through the whole report. But in the interest of time, for now, I'll just jump to specific portions or parts of the report, just so that we are on the same page. So I think I'll start with the geographical areas and the the meetings covered. As I mentioned, we had the first meeting at the county level, and that's where we had convened all of us here back in November. When you look at the hierarchy there that we've tried to bring out how the meetings happen. So we had one county-wide meeting that I know you all participated. Then from there, the technical committee went down to the cluster level. And at the cluster level is where 2 sub-counties are merged to be one from the map that we have shared. So we had 3 cluster level meetings. This is social mobilization meetings. And that was Kibwezi East and Kibwezi West as one cluster. We had Kaiti and Kidome as another cluster, and we had Mboni and Makueni as another cluster. So those were 3 meetings that took place. Thereafter, we had the ward level meetings still conducted by the technical committee. And at the ward level, we had 30 meetings. That means 1 meeting per every ward. And we also did 1 meeting with the village administrators, and this is because we've been continuously saying that this process is a partnership between the county government and the other partners. So we did mobilize the village administrators, and this is because we were keen for them to understand the process and the message, the key message, so as to support in mobilizing informal groups at the village level. And that's why we had one meeting specifically for them. And out of the 60 village administrators, 55 were in attendance, and they did an awesome job because thereafter they have been able to map 237 informal groups, as we are going to be seeing. So the progression from November, when we had the county level, that has been the progression. Coming to the statistics and the numbers of stakeholders that have been reached and mobilized. So through the 34 meeting, 1 county-wide, 3 at the cluster level, and 30 at the ward level, then we were able to mobilize 1,124 stakeholders directly through the 34 meetings. These stakeholders were organization representatives that are consortiums. So there were majority of them were not stand on their own. They are consortiums that represent other organizations, and therefore they were able to also go and spread the good news of the LDO to their consortium members. And through that, we mobilized another 1,769 stakeholders indirectly. That brings to a total of 2,893. A further 350 stakeholders, 350,000 stakeholders were mobilized through online, through the online approach. And specifically, we engaged 9 local radio stations that were spreading this message through the news highlight. We also had targeted interviews. The technical committee was able to do some targeted interviews. And what we did is that we linked this, the radio stations with our website so that we as a feedback group, so that they are able to, the stakeholders who are reached through the radio stations have a way of getting back in terms of expressing interest, in terms of getting further clarification about the LDO. And yes, and that's how we mapped the 350,000 stakeholders that were reached through the local radio stations and also online. Online, virtually, I mean our Facebook page, the Yetu Facebook page. We also have a website. So that's the number that was reached through that. In terms of the conversion rate, out of the total stakeholders that were mobilized, 92% expressed interest to join the LDO. I think that's very encouraging. And this expression of interest was formal by filling in expression of interest form, and that's how we also gathered the data of the consortiums and the organizations that the 1,124 represent. So that shows that the stakeholders received the message very well and they are willing to be part of this process. It's also interesting to note the demographic spread from the social mobilization exercise. 24% of the stakeholders mobilized were youths. And youth here we are thinking about below 35 years. 57% were women that were mobilized as direct participants. We have a further 3%. These are people living with disability. And it's important to note that the 3% again represent organizations of people living with disability. So through the 3%, they also have their consortium. So it may seem a small percentage, but that represents, when we come to translating it to numbers, they represent many more organizations because they are also consortiums. So as you'll note from the statistics, the highest number of stakeholders mobilized were self-help groups and village and cluster level organizations. And I think this tallies and matches with what we are saying, that this message needs to go down to the people. It has to, Gina put it very well, that we don't want a desktop organization. We want an organization that is in touch with the people on the ground. So you can see the highest number of stakeholders mobilized were at that level, self-help. The second level was the CBOs, the religious groups, and the local NGOs. That is 1,124. I also mentioned that through the support of the village administrators, 237 informal groups were mapped and reached out. We've been appreciating the contribution and participation of the county government, and you'll note that throughout this process of social mobilization, this first phase, and we'll get to know why it's the first phase, 101 county officials were involved or participated in this process. And I already mentioned the 55 village administrators. The major fears, I think we've really hammered this point of the major fears that came out from the stakeholders, and this was across the board at all levels, right? From the county level to the cluster to the ward level. The major fears that were expressed by the stakeholders was a potential government interference in the operation of the LDO. But I'm glad that from today's conversation, we are sort of arresting most of these fears, and you being the representative of the stakeholders, it's very good that you are addressing this at this point. There was also a major fear of elitism. And this is leadership of the LDO being directed from the county level by the elites. So that came out very strongly. And of course, it's very important to note those fears so that we address them as we go along in this process. So that is in terms of statistics and the numbers we've tried to analyze. We have a detailed, more comprehensive report, but we've tried to analyze so that one can be able to grasp this at a glance. We can move to the next. Yes. We had 3 major questions that we were seeking the views of stakeholders throughout this process. It was a very targeted process, and one of the questions that we were keen to get views of the stakeholders is concerning the proposed structure of the trust, of the LDO as a trust. And there were interesting conversations that came out of this, but one clear view that came out from all the stakeholders is that they are looking for a bottom-up kind of a structure But in terms of the technicalities of the structure, these were some of the views. There are those who are looking for a structure, of course, that starts with the Board of Trustees, an advisory committee, a secretariat, and they were thinking around a lean secretariat made up of devolution officers and volunteers and county level committees. There were also those who are of the view that a Board of Trustees with representation drawn from all sectors, their thought process was the sectoral way, can be at the top. Then we have an executive director, support staff, and maybe community committees. We also had another category who are of the view that we can have an advisory committee at the top, a Board of Trustees, a secretariat, maybe a sectoral committees, and Makueni citizens being convened regularly as part of this in their cluster. So those were the views we summarized. We were able to actually take time and go through all the views from the 34 meetings so that we are able to accurately pick out what the stakeholders are saying. So this is the kind of thinking that came out from the stakeholders, right from the county level. So this is also very important for you to pick the thoughts and the views of the stakeholder as we go to the structure. I know we are at that point where we are going to be really rushing through the structure. So it's good, especially for those who joined us today, to just have a feel of what the stakeholders thought about the structure. We can move to the next. Yes, the second question was the immediate needs. What do the stakeholders think in terms of the immediate needs that the LDO should address? And we categorized this, again, the views from the stakeholders into two categories. We had the county level and we had the cluster, and we combined with the ward level. And again, we tried to consolidate and summarize the immediate needs as they were brought out by the stakeholders. So at the county level, the immediate thinking is that the LDO should provide opportunities for capacity building, building collaborations and networks. They also think that resource mobilization and partnership building is an immediate need that the LDO should be able to pick up and address. Participatory strategic planning, that tied to needs assessment to inform the LDO policy formulation, and also stakeholder mapping based on thematic areas. So that is in the short term. At the cluster and the ward level, formulation of an LDO constitution, that is formal registration of the LDO, and establishment of a physical office was a pressing immediate need. Capacity building also featured at the cluster and ward level, and this is for community awareness of the LDO among the community leaders, which part of it was happening through social mobilization, but social mobilization will be a continuous process. So they were also keen to see how the LDO can support the community in the formulated community action plans. Inclusivity was very key, inclusivity of people with disabilities in all the processes, sectoral inclusivity. They also wanted to understand more about the LDO membership now that they learned that this is a membership organization, so they were keen to know there are going to be contributions, what does it mean to be an LDO member? So that was of great interest to them. And then, as I have mentioned, we have informal groups at the cluster and the ward level and the village level. So they wanted to, if all the unregistered groups, because these are the ones we are calling informal groups, can be given an opportunity to participate, or this is just for the registered group. Capacity building, I already mentioned it. So the other immediate need was the LDO to support in boosting financial grants for microfinance, value addition in marketing their agricultural produce through sourcing sufficient market outlets. They also wanted to see how they can be supported to explore modern farming technologies, and this is just to standardize, influencing standardization of agricultural products. So you can be able to see how the different levels of stakeholders and their expression of the needs and what they envisage that the LDO will support them to do at that development level. The third question was on long-term goals. The LDO will outlive, you know, it will outlive government, what do we call them? The government terms. We are saying, when we think about the long-term goals, we were talking about 20 to 30 years, the future of the LDO, which is the future of the people of Makueni. And they expressed the future that they envisage, again, categorize that into two levels, at the county level and at the cluster and the ward level. So in the long term, 20 to 30 years, at the county level, the stakeholders envisage a sustainable, independent organization, and this is for attainment of integrated development. They also envisage an LDO as a role model organization for world development for people and by the people of Makueni. They are also keen to build on community-managed development, focused organizations seeking to transform and impact community livelihoods in Makueni County. They are also looking into an umbrella organization that is well-sustained, well-structured, with good governance and diversity in representation. And this is with an aim to achieve local development, which will ensure communities are self-sustainable. And they also want to see a community-owned, community-managed, and community-sustained organization. When we look at the long-term aspirations of the stakeholders at the ward and the cluster level, the structure again features, they are looking for an operational bottom-up development, and I mentioned that that strongly came out, the kind of structure. They're also looking for sustainable development, poverty eradication, increased productivity and profitability. They would also want to see every person in Makueni having an economic stability and every household having access to clean and safe drinking water, every person having access to affordable health care. They are also keen to see equitable distribution of Makueni County resources, as well as improvement of development enablers, such as information communication technology. They are also looking into sustainable markets for the farm produce, especially mangoes and oranges. That coupled with improved road transport system and improved livelihood within the community members. And when we try to summarize all that, it's all gearing towards poverty eradication. They are also looking into industrialization and fostering social cohesion. So I think this is very important, as Martin has taken time to talk to us about the place of purpose, because this local development organization is for the people of Makueni. We thought it's very important for you to hear what they envisage, the kind of long-term and short-term goals that they have, even as we go into this process. Those were the three questions, and as I've mentioned, I've just tried to summarize. We have this detailed analysis, and we also have the comprehensive report that we can always share with you, so that I think that is Francis who said people need to be having reference documents. So this is a summary, but I highly commend and encourage you to go through the whole report all of us, even those who are involved in the process, so that we can now start to dissect, you know, what fits where in the next process that we are going into. Thank you very much. Yes, I hand it back to Martin. Asante. Who are not with us yesterday? Supper is gone. Okay. They have heard for themselves. Yeah, so I can welcome, yes. This one.
Thank you, Mother, for that brief and smart presentation. An extract of what all those people thought about. Don't joke with how many groups? I've seen 1,700 and plus. A summary of three slides. You must be very brilliant, but not this brilliant. This is another brilliant, and the presentation was brilliant.
Thank you.
I agree with the fears. They are so much touching, like the political way. The fear. Those grassroots people had the fear. So suppose the government in place does. Suppose we don't have a government which has political goodwill for what you are doing. That's our danger, and they have said it. Probably they are sensing. People are very clever, especially in Makueni. Then the other fear is automatic.
Yeah,
now, this one is very important because remember, we are changing guards.
Yes.
This is the last term of professor. Whoever will come, we don't know. People will decide. That fear was genuine. I concur with them. Then, in terms of the structure, those were proposals, yeah?
Yes,
we can also suggest.
Yeah,
because I heard you saying, people are saying, hii ende juu, hii kuja katikati. I could admire a structure which looks like this. Look at the board level, where there is a board. Can you bring that slide somewhere?
The structure.
Yeah, structure.
The slide on the structure. Down. There, yes.
Now, look where the board is. That's the BOT.
Right.
Then, after the BOT, you know, BOT is like, they are the think tank in one way of the secretariat. And the secretariat is there with the advisory committee and the sectoral committee.
Yes.
I would suggest, because the advisory committee mostly can be advising the board on how to lay down policies and ongoing of how these things will be implemented. The advisory to be up there, a few people, not almost, but people will agree anyway. Advisory ende pale. Kazi yao ni ku-advise the board on how to come up with a good roadmap on how activities will be done at secretariat level. Then at the secretariat level, we can have departmental committees because we love a secretary, a CEO with a team, whereby we love departments, but you can also call them secretarial departments. Because if it is water, human rights, blah, blah, it's okay. I will agree. So my suggestion was advisory to peleke juu, then we retain the secretarial. Might it be department or committee? I think it will go well with. That's my suggestion.
So that we don't make a decision about it. Can we revisit this when we talk about the trust tomorrow?
Yeah, it's okay.
Because this is a suggestion. We still yet to look at the legal side of it. It's not exhaustive, but just a little bit more.
Yep. Sorry? Yeah.
On the legal authority, each one will have over the other, lest the work be overlapped. Because if the advisor is on top, now, what does the legal aspect talk about?
Dictate, yeah.
What is the application of the legal aspects on that. So we need careful advice from law so that he can advise us on all those levels of management.
Thank you. And what we are doing here is still very important. As much as we are planning to look at this, Mr. Oro, tomorrow, but we are teasing our minds and also now starting to incorporate what the people that we represent are saying. So those dots, hold on to those dots very well, because ultimately is the views of the people will matter. They will matter. So it's good that we are teasing our mind and thinking through this today, so that tomorrow we are not starting on a blank slate. We have already tried to think through it. Yes.
Yeah. I think it is better for us also to see whether our rights are safeguarded, because in the County Assembly of Makueni, there must be something to do with the legislation on public participation, and that is a legal, either a legal structure which will be existing forever. So for us to defend our rights, it's also good to know where we can chip in that legal framework, so that also the incoming government and also the outgoing cannot fight our activities. And lastly, I have seen a situation whereby, and it has come nowadays, whereby if you don't toe the line of the political party affiliations, the Tanga and also the Kieleweke and also the Makueni Kukinani Akisando, you see, a government may come which may stagnate our activities forever and ever. So we should think broad on those issues of party affiliations, political goodwill and all that. And also resource mobilization. If we depend more on the either county government, what will our future happen if the society Kokinani Akisando happens? Yeah.
Very genuine concerns from Festus. He's fully aware and awake that next year is 2022. So we are hearing you about those concerns and also where this fits in terms of policy frameworks. Will the LDO have an opportunity or the power to contribute to some of these legal framework discussions? Martin is listening to you with both ears, as well as Francis. Wanasikiliza kabisa, so those things will be factored in. Yes? Yeah.
So let's try and not be worried.
That's very right. Again, going to the long term, the LDO is thinking about 20 to 30 years, while political regimes are 5 years. So you have to jump over. Yes. Yeah, major fears and concerns.
Assumptions. Yeah. They were assuming, probably. Okay, fears, eh? Did they give you some mitigation? You know, people are very clever. They say something whereby they know the answer. There must be mitigation of the same. Then, is that a wheelbarrow between those two? Is that a wheelbarrow? Because some things are very dangerous. Is that a wheelbarrow? Oh, it is not a wheelbarrow.
Well, I'll have to look for another. It's just yeah. Another icon, because I understand the times that we are in. And it's a trolley, it's not a wheelbarrow. So But yes, at this rate, sometimes people can see things that, you know, when we've had things for a long time. Yeah. Okay, Mutunga.
Yes. I wanted to react on the fact that this local development organization is a public benefit organization. It is not a commercial organization. So when we are thinking of the formation of this, actually we must very much avoid on issues to do with interference from outside, either the government or the political wing, because this one actually has nothing to do with the politics. It is people's organization. And the origin of this, the concept, actually has come majorly from the residents, the grassroots. It is targeting the issues which happen just on the ground and not from up. So wherever we think of it, actually we must critically think on things which happen on the ground, because that is the origin of this. Thank you.
Thank you for that remark. There is another burning one from the chambers.
I don't know the method of getting the Board of Trustees and the other structures. Formally, I've seen institutions failing because the method of getting the office bearers is not clear, whether competitive or democratic. And if it is democratic, I think the informal sector has outdone us, because the way they do the election, even the village Jordan does not know. But when it comes to cooperative, even the president knows, so he can come with his person and inside in that board, and the thing may fail if there is no goodwill. So I think it's important we come up, if it's democratic, we come up with a structure which can sustain itself with something like IEB, Independent Electric Board, which will be doing the transition of that organization.
Thank you. The good news is that this team here, you will have the privilege of steering that discussion and looking at the best approach. So this will not be decided out there, but we are the people. Remember in the morning, Irene said that we will have to make the hard decisions and the tough decisions, and we disengage and dislink our interests in the decision-making process, so that we can put the interest of the people that we are representing at the forefront. So you'll have that privilege and opportunity. Yes, so Martin, it seems the team has exhausted.
One comment before Martin joins.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
sorry,
Irene.
I like it when Anthony Mapaka says that people are clever. They make comments and they bring out fears without providing solutions. Surprisingly, when in each and every meeting, I'm talking about the county level meeting and the cluster level meeting, in every meeting, the issue of government interference was raised. And in every meeting, a response was given. In the meeting at county level, I do remember Francis speaking very eloquently about the reason why the government of Professor Kifutha Kibwana, His Excellency, is behind this LDO, and why the support is there, and why he has partnered with USAID to bring this LDO. But that still did not remove the comments from coming up once again. And I was there and listening very well. When we went to the cluster meetings, I remember Josephine was in Kilome with Patrick. Kilome, and even I think Dr. Sebedi was there. again, the discussion was there, very passionate about possibility of government interference. And a discussion that followed, the solutions were provided that it is extremely very important for this organization to be accountable and above board, so that then the government has trust in what it's doing and making sure that the structures that have been put in place are accountable. But that still didn't stop the comment from persisting. So then when we came to Kaiti and Makueni, that's the last meeting, we had a very big representation of county government officials. I think that cluster had even more representative from county government officials. I'll look back and see. And the discussion was there. And I remember the person who was the sub-county for Makueni, administrator for Makueni, studying and explaining in a very detailed way. So the point is, there is the perception and there is the practical. And what we need to do as we go forward is use the LDO as an opportunity to start modeling the relationship between county government and this umbrella level organization that is at county level. There can be a healthy engagement. And this is why it is very important for us to understand the dichotomy nature of civil society, that there is a point at which the organization, the LDO, will actually hold government accountable. But it needs to be beyond reproach in its own system, in its own accountability, because there is no way you can point a finger at the county government while you have the log in your eye. So I think this is a discussion that is very important. And that's why we actually represented the fears as they were represented, because I don't want to assume that during the social mobilization, we solved the problem, because we didn't solve the problem. So thank you very much, and thank you, Martha, for the presentation. And once again, let me thank each and every one in the technical committee for actually taking the responsibility. I must say that, Pastor, I know that you can do this work. You'll continue being the ambassador. I can see Gina there, you are ambassadors. I can even talk about, yes. I miss being there, but I'm happy. Then coming back to you, who have been brought in this meeting for the first time, the ones we identified through the county level meetings, we actually...
Tomorrow you are attentive. Yeah? What do I wanna? One. When I'm a cool mangi, and I to vinge, no do o monte to aki we are mwingi mno, eh? To vinge. Fred, we are interested in going home. We are not interested in listening to more. So take a very short time. Alafu funga hii kitu. Let me protect you from Nairobi things.
Thank you, Martin. I actually don't have much to add. I think it's just to thank you all again for today. Okay, I think as that's been sorted out, we'll just bring this meeting to a close. And as I was saying, it's just to thank you. Again, I'll just bring this up one last time. The reason we've gone through this process is because a number of us entered at different phases, so we needed to keep re-emphasizing these things so that we're all together moving forward. So I thank you for your patience, for those who are seeing this for the 100th time. I know some of us have seen the roadmap, we've heard of the process, but it's good for us to have a common understanding moving forward. So with that, I'll just invite Francis just to say a few remarks as we close, and also close for us the meeting. And then I think Martha will have an announcement and we can proceed. Francis?
Thank you. Not much really. This is encouraging. The views in this report are all ours, and the community members we interacted with.
And therefore, we'll have more time, as Olo says, tomorrow to interact and even refine some of these things. There are proposals, even that structure. I'm sure, Martha, you spend a lot of time organizing the ideas into that. And this team will have more time also to reorganize, organize it to suit. So it is not cast on stone. I want to believe so. Thank you. Have a good evening. It is my pleasure. Tomorrow we shall meet. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just take a minute. I know it has been a long day. We need to get back to our places. But even as you dash out, we've organized for you a cup of tea. So if you're able to grab a cup of tea and a snack so that you usifike nyumbani ukiwa unakaa like we did not feed you well. But anyway, we have two forms here. Kindly make sure you sign in. We have the registration form and we have the reimbursement form. I know most of you filled in the registration form as you came in, but on your way out, you can fill in the reimbursement form so that we are able to reimburse your transport coming here. So that is all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Martha. I see our resident bishop has stepped out. Do you have a substitute or deputy bishop? Okay.
May I request us to stand up, please. Now we can pray. Heavenly Father and King of Glory, we want to thank you for today. We've been here since morning, and here we are in the evening, O Lord, and we thank you for the many things that we have deliberated. Thank you for the speakers. Thank you even for Aga Khan Foundation and USAID. Thank you for this baby that we are trying to bring in to Makueni. We pray that, oh Father, you may be with us. We pray that, oh Father, you may help us and hold our hands, because service to man is service to God. We pray that, oh Father, you may make what we are doing here a success, and we shan't forget to thank you. I pray for each one as we depart to various places, oh Father, in this county. Pray that you may go with us. We cover each and every one with the blood of Jesus Christ, Lord. May you surround us with your favor, and may you take us home. And when we meet here tomorrow, we shan't forget to thank you. We bless you because you are good God always. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.